You better be holding onto your chair for this one, because this is, oh my gosh. Hey everyone, me Kevin here. The semi-truck manufacturer and pickup truck manufacturer Nikola basically just admitted to fraud. This is really bad, and I'm very, very disappointed. We're going to break down Nikola's press release in response to a short seller who had some pretty crazy allegations. And let me just say, after reading Nikola's press release, I'm at a loss for words, and you are going to want to hear this, because even if you don't care that much about Nikola, this is like, I almost fell off my chair when I read this. Quick background, on June 14th, when Nikola's stock was skyrocketing to the 70s, the 80s, and touching 90, I made a video suggesting that Nikola's stock would probably crash to the 20s or 30s, not because I hated the company, but because of simple math. There was massive shareholder dilution coming, and that's exactly what happened. I did recommend buying Nikola under $30, which I did, but I also recommended last week, the moment Nikola partnered with GM, that I sold 80% of my shares at $45 and then the rest of them at about $42, and recommended that maybe right now was best to sit on the sidelines. I will link all my videos down below that I made on Nikola. A lot of this was just simple math based on outstanding shares. I also made and will include some videos where I talked about the promise of fuel cell vehicles along with electricity and their ability to create a hydrogen infrastructure, though I was skeptical of the cost of hydrogen. So I've made a lot of content on Nikola. Well, let's get into the new stuff. 4 days ago, Nikola was ripped apart by a short seller who had many allegations, including an allegation that Nikola's semi-truck, the first one, the Nikola 1, just rolled down a hill. That was a 3% grade to make it look like it was driving but not actually rolling down the hill. In fact, the short seller alleges that the truck was just towed to the top of the hill and then pushed down. Well, I hope you're seriously sitting down for this one, because this report is insane. Here's the press release, okay? So this is Nikola. Nikola had about 4 days to put together this press release, and this is it. So this is their cover page. Where things get really entertaining is on page 2. The first, and this one's not so fall off the cherry, the second one is, but let me read this in order here. The first thing is, short seller alleges that Nikola buys and does not make inverters in-house. In its report, Hinderberg misrepresents that Nikola is claiming a third-party inverter is the company's own technology by placing a sticker over the supplier's name. This is because there was a picture of an inverter and there was some masking tape hiding the manufacturer of this electricity inverter on the truck. Well, Nikola claims that at no time did Nikola state the inverter on the prototype truck was the company's own or would be used in production. See, what they're really saying here is, oh, well, I mean, we never said that we would use our own inverter, so sure, that's somebody else's, and yeah, we taped it up, but we do that because we just don't want our competitors knowing what products we're using. But see, here's the problem with that. Here's a tweet from July 1st from Trevor Milton, essentially the founder of Nikola, where he says, we make the entire pack like the top guys do, like Tesla, right? We do have an OEM making our truck, that's another manufacturer making our truck, but all internals are Nikola's intellectual property. The batteries, the inverters, the software, whatever, all the other things. We own it all in-house, not just the plant to build the truck. So, you know, in this tweet, he's telling the world, hey, we have all of our own intellectual properties, our own batteries, our own inverters, our own software, our own everything. Well, if that's true, why? Why on your prototype would you use a different company's and then cover it up? It's just a little shady. Like, okay, maybe you were gonna use the prototype or, you know, the other company's inverter in your prototype and then replace it with your own later. It's just odd, but okay, all right, let's say we could give that one a pass. Okay, so here's one more before we get to the banger. The short seller reports and claims that Trevor Milton made false statements regarding the company's battery technology following the breakdown of its transaction discussions with Zapco Limited. Okay, whatever, so something fell apart. But remember, in the tweet, that Trevor Milton said they have their own intellectual property when it comes to batteries, right? And then here in the rebuttal, the company, and this is, probably written by attorneys at a law firm that they hired. It's got to be right. It should be pretty accurate. And they say here that, in fact, the potential battery technology advancements are related to an ongoing confidential partnership with a leading academic institution. All right, so this is interesting. See, it says here, a leading academic institution. Okay, so they hit up a college to go, hey, help us develop some battery technology, and, we'll help fund your college if you guys come up with some battery tech for us. This is pretty common. This is normally done. The problem is the way that Nikola presents information, because take a look at this. This month, Nikola entered into a letter of intent to acquire a world-class battery engineering team. Nikola said, some details weren't released, but Nikola said the 20-person battery development team includes 15 PhDs as well as 5 master degree team members. But due to confidentiality and security reasons, additional details of the acquisition will not be disclosed. Well, wait a minute. So are you partnering with a university that has 15 PhDs and 5 masters? Or are you acquiring the team and bringing them on as employees? The latest says it's just a partnership with the university. Okay, you better be holding onto your chair for this one, because this is, oh my gosh. All right, so here it is. Short seller alleges that 2016 Nikola 1, their first semi-truck, was not a real truck. In fact, it was a pusher. Well, the Nikola 1, the company will have you know, is a real truck. It's a real truck because, everyone, it sits in the Nikola showroom. A pusher means the vehicle was not designed, keyword designed, to be moved by its own propulsion system. But hey, the Nikola 1 was in fact designed to be powered for or by and driven by its own propulsion system. Okay, all right, so it was designed for that. Here are the facts. The gearbox was functional, okay. The batteries were functional, except they were probably not theirs. The inverters functioned, except those were probably also not Nikola's. The power steering, suspension, infotainment, air disc brakes, high voltage, and air systems were all functional. As Nikola pivoted to the next generation of its trucks, it ultimately decided not to invest additional resources into completing the process on its own propulsion system. So what you're saying is, you never had your own propulsion system in the Nikola 1. Instead, you had a truck that had a functioning battery and inverters and some parts that worked, but it never drove. After pivoting, Nikola moved on to the Nikola 2 and the other semi-trucks, which do drive themselves. The Nikola 1 was an incredibly successful proof of a concept. Everything that could be learned was great. Okay, fine. All right, here's the banger. Short seller distorts Nikola 1 2017 third-party promotional video and creates a popular lie. Hinderberg seeks to portray Nikola as misrepresenting the capabilities of the Nikola 1, as claiming it simply was filmed rolling down a big hill. Well, Nikola says Nikola never staged. Its truck was driving on its own propulsion system. That's right. Nikola is saying, wait a minute, it's a lie that you're saying our truck rolled down the hill. Our truck did roll down the hill, but we never said that it was going to drive itself down the hill. What? What? The truck was showcased and filmed by a third party for a commercial. Nikola describes this third-party video on the company's social media as in motion. It was never described as under its own propulsion or powertrain drive. Wow, I have never heard of that clever wording before. We never said this car you see apparently driving on the street was driving itself. We never said we didn't tow it up the hill and just let it rip. We never said it had a working motor in it. It's not our fault you assumed it was driving. Well, if I was just some miscellaneous person thinking about this, I would think that I was tricked. In fact, when I look up the definition of the word fraud, I get intentional pervasion of truth in order to induce another to part with something of value, potentially to invest in Nikola, or an act deceiving or misrepresenting, a trick, a person who is not what he or she pretends to be, an imposter. Well, like, I hate to be blunt here, but I kind of feel like that truck was an imposter truck. I mean, I don't know, make your own conclusion on this one, but I was floored when I saw this. Now, on GM, I recently broke down the Nikola GM partnership, and I explained why I thought it would be a mistake to include GM Super Cruise. I'll link that down below, but basically, I thought there was a demographic mismatch here. I thought that Nikola should be targeting the Tesla demographic to try to convince people to come to Nikola because they'll get twice the range because they'll have the option of electricity or hydrogen. I actually thought the concept was a brilliant concept. Well, I asked Trevor on Twitter about this, and he replied. In fact, this is what he said. I said, why partner with GM to appeal to an audience of EV buyers dominated by male 25 to 45-year-old techie millennial Gen Xers? Seems like an audience mismatch for the Badger, the pickup truck. Well, Trevor says to this that manufacturing, cost savings, and supply chain. Truck will be Nikola DNA and sold directly through us. Customers will get the best of both worlds. I don't know, man. Like, that doesn't convince me. To me, it still feels like a GM vehicle then. And that is still a mismatch. But again, that's just my opinion. So, I mean, I appreciate that he replied. I really do. Now, on the rest of the GM-Nikola partnership, it wouldn't surprise me if GM tries to distance itself from Nikola because these allegations are pretty bad and they're starting to prove themselves, which is even worse. And that's not a good image for GM. Now, in fairness, GM doesn't seem to have very much invested here. In fact, Nikola just diluted its shares a ton to give GM an 11% stake in the company. So I don't think GM is really losing anything saying, sure, we'll manufacture your truck if you ever get to that point. But there's definitely a reputational question mark here. And this is a very big disappointment for the EV world. Yeah. Guess we're sticking with Tesla and the Cybertruck for now. I will still keep an eye on Nikola, and I don't want to come across as a Nikola hater at all because I do think there are some incredible concepts at this company. I think Trevor made some mistakes. And honestly, I think it would be better to, well, let's just say, I think the letter drafted by the attorneys, not a good look. Not a good look at all, and that scar will probably remain with Nikola for quite a while. It wouldn't surprise me if they have to change the name. In fact, the Financial Times this morning suggested that instead of naming the company Nikola, they should name the company Newton, because after all, objects in motion remain in motion. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you like this kind of content, please consider subscribing. Share it if you found it helpful or useful. And folks, we'll see you next time.